Latino can no longer be rendered invisible. Latinos are boosting the U.S. economy under the powerful franchising business model. It is time for change and to take actions for the business future of the Latino community. Let's do it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. We stand for more opportunities for people from all walks of life. Join us to be part of the transformation of the franchising industry, where Latinos have the power to grow on a large scale.
Greetings, saludos, buenos días, saludos, buenas noches. Greetings, this is Rafael Alvarez. I'm the CEO founder of the Latino Franchise Association, and this is the LFA podcast, Franquiciando. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, because especially in the Latino community, we don't really think about what's going to happen when we're ready for us to retire. What happened after we build a successful franchise and we really want to, sell it or move on to the next retirement, stage. And we never think about an exit strategy. And today I have the great pleasure to introduce to you the one and only Larry Kennedy, who is his financial advisor. I know Larry for many years. And Larry will be talking about the franchise exit strategy. And he is from Northwestern Mutual. Larry, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Rafael. It's great to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
No bad at all, my friend. We've been trying to do this for quite a while, and I think this is the topic that I've been looking forward to kind of showcase to our followers and our members, because well, as a Latino, I can tell you, Latino, they don't really think a lot about, they don't think about retirements. I mean, what happened then when I retired, or even investing on the life insurance. What happened if I have an accident and I end up paralyzed or whatever? I mean, that's one of the things that for some reason within my community, I noticed that people now starting to really engage and believe. I mean, but I think that the more we talk about it, the more the topic will resonate, especially in the franchising industry. When people build a successful franchise, we want to make sure that at least when they are ready to retire, they have a great strategy, great plan in place, right? And we're going to be talking about that, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just the Latino community. I mean, there's lots of business owners that are out there that don't really think about this type of planning, So it's important. It's an important conversation.
But before we get into the topic, I really want to know, I want the public, the people, our followers, listeners, to know who is Larry Kennedy. Actually, your real name is Lawrence, Lawrence Kennedy. Where were you born, my friend, and where you grew up?
I grew up in Montrose, New York, which is in Westchester, right next to Croton-on-Hudson, so like between Croton and Peekskill, New York.
Wow, I didn't know that you were born there. I know you, but for some reason I thought that you were born and raised in Portland Valley. But it is right in the neck of the wood. It's right there. But for people that are not familiarized with the area, I guess that is like North New York City. How many miles? It's like what?
I would say 50 miles. 50 miles north. Yeah.
North of the city of New York. That's where you grew up. So you went to school. I guess you went to Portland. No, which school you went to?
I went to Hendrick Hudson High School in Montrose. So I went to Frank G. Lindsay as my elementary school, then Blue Mountain Middle School, and then Hen Hud.
Fantastic. So you went to college. You graduated, went to college. Which school you went to?
No, no, I've been self-employed since I was 20 years old. I thought about going to college, but I didn't really. It wasn't something that was a strong desire for me. I always had some difficulties in comprehending certain information, so it's not something I was motivated by. I was more motivated by being a business owner.
I noticed that's specifically when I met you, right? As a business owner.
Yep.
I remember you had a limousine business, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was one of many businesses. Yeah.
Which businesses have you tried? And tell people so people get an idea that sometimes it takes multiple businesses in order for you to be successful. It's not like you just kind of open on the first one and boom, right?
Yeah, true. I mean, my first business, I rented out gas pumps from these two brothers in Montrose. They were having a lot of success with their mechanical business, and the gas business was just an interruption of their day. So I rented the pumps from them. I think it was $500 a month. They didn't give me a desk, and I turned it into a full service gas station, which bought them more business. And then I expanded to two other gas stations. Um, and then in 96, I branched off into the limousine business. And that's where I had the limousine business probably for about 24 years. And doing that, I did a couple other things too, like a deli and a bar.
Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. I know that in the region that we live, there is not a lot of businesses per se. It's not like New York City that there is a business in every corner. But I see that the entrepreneurship is there. I've seen a lot of people that they try, one business and all this. So how do you end up then into the working into the financial work? I know that you are an expert in investments, financial wealth. Tell us about it.
So I've always been interested in the stock market, even when I was younger. It's something that just intrigued me. When I had my businesses, I was the one that was implementing the benefits, the 401ks. I was giving seminars to my employees on the importance of investing early and just trying to give them a heads up on everything. Then, the transportation business is a rough business, can be. So September 11th, I survived September 11th. At that point, I decided to diversify how my revenue was coming in from the transportation business. So I create 5 different income streams from that business model. And then everything was going really well. 2008 came, and that really knocked me back on my heels a little bit. Got caught up in a few real estate deals that went sideways. The business wasn't fun anymore. At that point, I was in 5 locations. I've tried to bring on partners or controllers or other people to help me because the operations I was okay at. I was able to do it, but I didn't enjoy it. My passion was building relationships with people, helping them with different problems that they had to help solve them. So I started thinking about what I could do different. But now I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm not going to go to school. And I was thinking of different business models like doctors and accountants and lawyers, and their business model is pretty simple. They're their own practitioner. They see clients and patients throughout the day. They can leverage other professionals to share office space and staff. So that was the business model I wanted. But now, what business am I going to go into? So I had some uncles who were really successful as advisors. My wife, Sandy, her father was with John Hancock for 40 years. Her brother at that time was with Northwestern for about 11 years. So I called my brother-in-law, started chatting with him a little bit about the opportunity. He connected me with an office in White Plains, and the rest is history.
So I guess I see the connection why you choose Northwestern there. Tell us more about the company. I mean, why Northwestern and how big the company is.
It's funny when I was interviewing at different companies, I didn't realize Northwestern Mutuals was so strong financially. I didn't realize they were the strongest life insurance company in the country. I just happened to fall upon it because of my brother-in-law. And the managing partner who interviewed me, him and I were about the same age. So we hit it off very well. And I also like the business model. because at the end of the day, I'm still a business owner with Northwestern Mutual. They handle my license, my compliance, and my infrastructure, but I can represent the entire marketplace. I can represent all the states in the United States, so I'm not limited to any particular area. I'm licensed, I think, in like 22 states. So it was just a really great opportunity for me to be able to build a business with very low costs, and do what I love, which is building relationships and helping people.
That is fantastic. That is really, really fantastic. So I mean, I know more or less I have an idea of what the company does for sure, but if we talk about franchising, tell us what do you, I mean, how much do you know? What do you know about the franchising industry? And also right there, talk to us about why it is important for franchisors, franchisees, people that are in the industry to start thinking about an exit strategy, because sooner or later, we're all gonna die, right? Sooner or later, we're all gonna retire. So what's gonna happen then when you build a significant amount of assets or wealth, and then you want to retire? What do you recommend? But go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny because I mean that's kind of how you and I started our relationship back in 2002, I think. At that time, I had the transportation business. Just got out of September 11th. I had reinvented myself at that point. So I was reading this book called Michael Gerber, Why the E-Myth, Why Most Small
I
Businesses
love it.
Fail.
I love it.
that
I
book.
love that book. He's one of my favorite authors. I even read a few of his books, even the Mastery of the Email. But go ahead.
The Mastery, that's right. And that's what got me into like the franchising model. Like after that book, I read Mastery, and it was talking about franchising and duplicating your services. And that's when you and I met at a PTA meeting, because our girls went to school together. And
That's
you were
right.
thinking
We're
at the time,
neighbors, right?
yeah, yeah. And that was the time you were thinking about franchising ATAX. And
That is correct.
I just always loved the business model of the franchise. Unfortunately, in the transportation industry, I can't duplicate the same experience, because when we get busy in the transportation industry, we call in other transportation companies and owner operators. So they're not going to be dressed the same as my drivers. They're not going to have different types of waters or newspapers. So I was never able to do it, but I've always been really intrigued by the business model.
Interesting. But by the way, before you talk about the exit strategy, let me give you the official welcome to the Latino Franchise Association as a supply member. People don't realize it, but you already became a member of the Latino Franchise Association, and you were there when we decided to launch the association, and you has been really, really, really helping and supporting the association. This one is for you.
Yeah, thank you. So as far as exit strategy goes, is everything okay? As far as exit strategy goes, it's really important for business owners to think about how they want their business to grow. That's one thing of succession planning, is how do you want your business to grow? How are you going to build it? In franchise, how many locations do you want? And then as you start to build it and you become successful, what are your thoughts? Are you going to pass the business off to your children? Are you going to have a key employee purchase the business? Are you just going to sell it as part of your retirement plan? So these are really important things to think about very early on. A lot of folks that you speak to, if they're early on in their business, they think it's too early for that type of strategy, but it's not, because once you figure out how you want that to play out, that will dictate a lot of different things on how you build the business. And you had mentioned earlier, one of the things was you also have to think about if you became disabled.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yep. If you passed away prematurely, if you got a divorce, especially if your spouse is part of the business, how does that all play out? Or if they're not part of the business, how does that play out? How does it play out if some of your children want to get involved with the business, but other children don't? How do you take care of the children that don't want to be in the business to make it fair. So there's lots of different areas to think about when you're talking about succession planning and exit strategy.
So let me explain, I guess, my way. So people, if I'm following, to see if I'm following, well, I have an
Okay.
idea because, I've been doing business with you also. But the reality is the first thing is, I guess, people need to have a life insurance. Is that part of the whole plan? That's the
Yep.
step number one, I guess.
Yep.
Life insurance, I guess, what it does is protect you in case that something happen. At least your family is well taken care of, sort of, right? At least there is plenty of money to pay the bills, to pay the house, to pay, so your wife and your kids at least will be able to live comfortable. Is that right?
That's correct. It's when your family's young, it's a way for you to create a tax-free lump sum of money that they can use to maintain their lifestyle. As your family starts to get older, and you may have paid off your mortgage and things like that, it becomes more of a way of transferring your legacy. So
And,
that's a way of
yeah.
transferring your wealth to the next generation.
and then you can go more creative instead of planning for the future. I mean,
Mhm.
talk to about what is the whole idea of creating estate
What the
planning.
whole idea of creating an estate?
Yeah, estate
Again,
planning.
that's part of like planning, right? You want to be able to think about how you want, first off, if you have a family, you want to think about where your children are going to go. God forbid you and your spouse aren't here anymore. You want to think about who's going to be the trustee of your estate, like who's going to oversee it from a financial perspective. You want to have some important power of attorney documents in place so that if you can't make any financial decisions on your own, you can give someone that power of attorney to do that for you. There's also some documents in there that give people power of attorney to direct your medical care, speak freely about your medical care, bypassing HIPAA. So that's very
Mhm.
basic stuff. But then you can get into building out a trust and putting your assets inside a trust. And that's a little bit more of a sophisticated type of estate planning, but it allows you to be more directive on how you want things to play out with regards to your assets when you pass away.
Very, very, very interesting because I can tell you, well, I wouldn't call it testimonial, but I know someone very close to me that is going through a very interesting situation in which his brother that never married and had a great job, built, I wouldn't say a fortune, but built a significant income. I guess the guy never thought that he will get old or die. The reality is that right now he is in a medical critical condition.
Hmm.
And what my friend was telling me is that, wow, I was so proud of the wealth that my brother was able to build. But guess what, Rafael? Could you believe that all the money that he has, technically, he's gonna lose it all because of his medical bills, in order for him to live for the next 10 years, the money that he has, even though he built a lot of money, because of his medical condition, he will not be able to survive. All of that money is gonna be gone
Yeah.
because part of part of the reason is what you and I are talking about. I guess he never planned. He never thought about putting some strategies in place. So when that happened, in case that he is no longer able to work, he get disabled, he's critical illness, he's in the hospital. Yes, you know how much a hospital bill is daily.
Yep.
No matter if you could have 10 million, 20 million, $100 million. Believe me, hospital will eat up that $100 million within a matter of what, 5 years, right? Especially
Yeah.
when they know that you have the money, right? If you don't have
Yeah.
insurance, if you don't have the right things in place, all of that money, no matter how much you have, can go like this.
Yeah. And not even hospitals. I mean, think about long-term care situations, people who need someone to come into their home after some type of illness or and then having to go into a facility. I mean, these facilities right now are between 12 and $15,000 a month in our area. And I've seen them even $20,000 a month.
Yeah, I totally. And then if you try to, keep it like in at home in the house, then you need to hire. If you hire a nurse, how much
Yep.
is a nurse? 24 hours,
Yep.
taking care of him or her. I mean, it's really, really, really expensive. But the reality is that traditionally people don't think about these things until they're in the situation. So that's why it is important that people start planning ahead of time. And I guess that's the reason why you're here talking about it. If people want to talk to you, I guess you do free consultation, or you can talk to people. How does it work?
Yeah. Folks can contact me directly, and we can set up an appointment and get to know each other a little bit and see, what they're thinking about, what plan they've done so far. I mean, lots of times when we're meeting with folks, they would have done some sort of planning. So just a matter of looking at things from a very comprehensive point of view to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Very, very, very good and very interesting. Then connecting this now, you know. So let me ask you a question. What happens when, if a franchise business owner didn't have an exit strategy and his partner, let's say his partner died?
Well, I mean, it depends on how the operating agreement is written up, or it depends if they have a buy sell or not. But let's say they don't have a buy sell and the operating agreement's not very clear, then that business partner, that surviving partner just became partners with that one who passed spouse, because that would default to them. So that's where it gets very tricky. And I've seen that play out with friends of mine, even like years ago. There was a situation where you had two partners who were really close. They would go, to their children's birthday parties. They would do lots of things together. The wives were very close. One of them passed prematurely. And a couple months after that, the wife came in and said, where's all the money, basically? And he's like,
Mhm.
the money's tied up. I mean, they're tied up in invoices and things like that. And so it ended up getting very ugly. He had to go to court to get everything taken care of because they didn't do this type of planning. And it's very common that business owners don't. And the best time to do this planning is when everyone's healthy and everyone's getting along, because that's the best time to put these documents in place. You don't want to put these documents in place like if you and your partner all of a sudden just got into like an argument or something like that, and then you think about doing it, because then it's not going to be the same type of arrangement. So you want to think about this stuff very early in the partnership when everyone's happy
So
and healthy.
can you also put an insurance to your partner in case that something happens? Because what if your partner, he has the assets, he has the knowledge, he has the know-how, or he's the key component of the operation, and suddenly he died? Can you have some protection for that? Can you put an insurance just in case that something happens? Is that all?
Yeah, there's two things you can do. One is the buy-sell agreement basically stipulates what happens if one passes. That's usually funded by life insurance. You can fund it with other assets if you wanted to, but it's typically funded by life insurance. So let's say, for instance, partner number 2 passes away. There's a life insurance policy in place. The money goes to the other partner, and then he uses that to pay out the spouse. So now that the spouse has been bought out of the business, and now that partner has the business, and he can move forward with it, or she can move forward with it, and then the spouse has their buyout so that they can move on with their life. But
Is
then
that
there's
very
also
common? Go ahead, explain the other one. Go ahead.
then the other one is key man insurance, where you have someone who is the rainmaker in the business, who's very critical, that if that person wasn't around, what does that look like? So you can have key person insurance that if they passed away, it buys you time to go out and find someone who can replace them. Or you also have key man disability insurance that if they become disabled over a certain period of time, they can get bought out that way as well.
But in order for any of these instruments to be put in place, the other, I guess your partner has to agree that you are gonna be.
Yeah.
It's like, that I'm gonna be putting an insurance, on my partner's, I guess, life in case of something happens. I mean, they have to agree. They have to sign for it or not.
Yeah, they have to agree to it. There's a document that goes along with that that articulates what the arrangements are, because there's still medicals involved. There's exams involved. The person. That's why I said you want to do this planning when you're healthy and you're happy, because if you're not a healthy person, you might not be able to get the insurance, or it might
Sure.
be more costly than what you anticipated. And the older you wait to do this type of planning, that also incurs more cost as well. So
Very, very, very interesting. I'm sure that, I guess, I mean, that is a term or a process that at least in my Latino community, I don't hear people talking about it, which is a very, is in a way it is common, in corporate America when you become a big player. And this is part of the reason why I'm addressing these issues. So my Latino community realize that, hey, if you're really getting involved in the franchising industry, whether you become a franchisees and have multiple units and you start developing a significant amount of wealth, or perhaps you just convert your successful business into a franchise and suddenly you grow up to have hundreds of locations and now you build a gigantic company, you need to start thinking and planning about your exit strategy. What happened if I die? What happened if my partner, who is key in the business, pass away? How can I, what kind of security do I have that the business will continue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Now let's talk about the Latino community, Larry. I know that you has been very supportive of the Latino community. You has been very supportive of the Latino Franchise Association. I know that you even went as far as requesting you want to become a member of the board of the Latino Franchise Association. I believe that you have a great sense of understanding that the Latino community in the United States is up and coming. It's really growing significantly. And right now, we have 65 million of Latinos living in the U.S. counted. This is without the undocumented one. And we have, within the Latino community in the U.S., we have over 5 million Latinos that own businesses. 5 million, that's a lot of people, that's a lot of growth. I mean, we're generating $3.2 trillion, in GDP. So it's a lot of power within the Latino community in the U.S. Tell me, what do you see that is happening? Are more Latino buying life insurance, planning exit strategy, putting the right instrument in place to protect their assets on that?
We're starting to see it. Like now, we're starting to see like the second and third generation. There's some wealth there. There's some more knowledge there. They're more involved in business owning or in the corporate world, so they're more aware of it. So we are starting to see that become more popular, but it's still a conversation that lots of folks are just not familiar with, especially the complexities of it. There are different types of different plans that people can use. There's even talking about retirement planning, educating the Latinos on how that works and compounding interest. And that's also something you really want to start early. And what is the best vehicle to use for that? Because there's different plans that you can use that you can build upon. If you're working for a corporation, they'll typically offer like a 401k, but there's different 401ks. There's traditional and there's Roth, and how do they work? So it's just a matter of just educating folks on what's available to them. As business owners have lots of different tools that they can use to fund retirement that react differently towards taxes. So it's really just about educating folks on how everything works.
Well, I mean, I hope that you hang around the association because we would love to have you speaking about any of those topics, any of those issues in some of our, conferences or expo or convention. Because the idea is just that, it's just to keep promoting it, repeating it until, they get it and they see the value. Some of them see it more like an expense. Oh, why do I have to pay for life insurance?
Right.
They see, oh no, they see it more like as an expense instead of seeing it as an investment, right? That's the key.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, that's common that they look at as an expense for sure.
Yeah, so we need to figure out a way, and we're gonna get there to be able to get more people to I guess it's a mindset, reprogramming, changing their mindset so they see the value proposition of investing. I mean, investing in the future. That's really pretty much what it is. So I'm sure that you see the importance of the Latino community, investing in this type of programs. I know that the idea is for you to be able to connect and have access and be able to. But I hope that as through the Latino Franchise Association, since we launched about a year ago, I mean, we've been very, very heavily promoting so many promoting the franchising business model across the nation. As a matter of fact, next week we're gonna be in California, in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, at Stanford University. We're having a huge event there, and I hope to bring you one of these year, maybe in the future, to one of those events to continue talking about it. But the idea is just that, is to continue promoting about these services. Anything else that you feel that is valuable, that you think that people should know about what you do?
Just we look at planning from a very comprehensive point of view. I think that's what a lot of folks find the value in. We're just not looking at one area of planning. We're looking at everything. And when we're talking to business owners, making sure that they're taking care of themselves on the personal front as well as the business front. So when we're starting to work with a business owner, we want to make sure that they're personally, financially, they're doing what they need to do. They're protecting their family. They're funding their future. They're doing all those things. And then that will transition into the business planning. So it's really just looking at everything as a whole for a common purpose, and making sure that they're educated on different strategies as they grow, as they start to bring on franchisees and keep building. Just keep having these conversations, these planning discussions, so that they're have the mindset of working on their business and how is it going to grow, and what ultimately they're going to end up doing. Is that business going to end up being selling that's their retirement solution, or is it going to be creating income for their retirement? So it's just really just having those conversations.
And before, we're almost running out of time, but before we finish, can you briefly talk about the whole idea? Because sometimes people, especially in my community, they think, oh, if I invest money in insurance, they think that the retirement plans. I guess explain the connection of the retirement plans with the stock market, because every time people hear the stock market crash or the stock market went down, people go into panic attack. Oh my God, I'm losing money. My retirement account, my retirement plan, I'm losing. Explain why that happened, and why people should not rush to sell or cancel the account.
Yeah, so retirement accounts are what we call qualified accounts. So what that means is you put the money in there, and it's invested in the stock market. It grows tax deferred, basically. So it allows your money to grow larger because you're not paying tax on the gain every year. And the stock market historically goes up and down. There's market corrections every 7 to 10 years. We don't know why or when they're going to happen. We just know that historically that has happened. We also know it takes about 2 to 3 years for it to correct itself. And when you're thinking about long-term planning, like retirement, you don't really want to pay attention to the ups and downs of the market, because that's going to happen. The worst thing you can do is pull out of the market when everything's down, and then thinking you're going to be able to get back in at the right time when things are starting to grow. It doesn't work. There's lots of folks that in 2008 pulled money out of the stock market and never recovered. So when you're thinking about long-term investing, you want to know that market is going to go up and down, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're still going to end up with a much higher return than if you try to pull out.
So technically, what were you talking about? This is a long-term investment. This is, like I say, this is not a fast race. This is a marathon. You're putting the money for the long term, hoping that when you retire. I noticed that also, people also should think about retirement. When people talk about retirement, they should look at what is my cost of living, right? And then,
Yep.
I don't know, usually the way I learn it, or the way I tell people, just look at your father and just look at your mother. Just look at your grandmother and just look at your grandparents, your parents and your grandparents, and see how old they live, right? The older they die, the most likely there is a higher chance that you might be dying around the same age, right? If they made it all the way to 90, they died 93, 90, whatever. Then that means that you have a high chance of living up to 90 years old. If you retire at 65, right? Now, that's 30 years that you're going to be alive. Now, the question is, how much money do you need in order for you to at least have a similar lifestyle, at least to pay the bills, right? Can you talk about that? Because people don't think it like, they don't see it like that. They don't, when they think about retirement, a lot of people, especially in my community, once again, people think that retirement is Social Security. Guys, forget about Social Security. Social Security was never created or intended for people to retire and live very happy after, right? Doesn't work like that. You need more than a Social Security in order for you to be able to live the same or similar lifestyle that you have when you have a regular job. But talk about that, Larry. I mean, the misconception that people might have. They think, oh, when I retire, yeah, I've been paying my Social Security for the last 30, 40 years. So yeah, I'll be able to, I'm fine. I don't need another retirement. Can you explain?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people also don't understand that Social Security is taxed, and depending on what income you're taking from your Social Security and other assets, because that's considered income when you're in retirement, it could be taxed either at 50 or 85%. So a lot of folks don't understand that. And when we're sitting down doing planning with folks, that's the conversations that we're having, Raphael. We're seeing what type of longevity they have in their family. And then we're building out the plan for that, whether it's 92, 95, 97 years old. We're talking to them about, what they're currently spending now to live their lifestyle. And a lot of folks also are under this impression that they're going to spend less when they retire, or they're going to be in a lower tax bracket. It's not necessarily the case, because when you retire, yeah, you might not have a mortgage anymore, and yeah, the kids are out of the house, but now you have more time to travel, spoil your grandchildren. So the chances are you're probably going to be spending just as much, if not a little bit more. So we factor that in. We factor in healthcare insurance in the retirement planning. And then we factor in how you're currently funding your retirement. And then we have this very sophisticated software that analyzes all that and then comes back and tells us, yes, you're on target to meet your retirement goals, or no, we have to increase your savings. So it's great conversations to have, especially when folks are like in their 30s and they're starting their family and they're funding their retirement accounts, but they don't really understand how that works because they don't teach this stuff in school. They don't teach any of this. And people really, I don't think, understand that they're building up all this money for retirement, but then when they get to retirement, how do they access it? How do they turn that into an income stream? And then talk to them about not being scared about running out of money, because we're going to build a distribution strategy for you that's going to ensure you're not going to run out of money. So there's lots of different things to talk about with retirement that people, like I said, don't really understand because it's not taught to us in school.
Wow, it's very true. It's very real. I mean, people don't think about it. Can you just do the math quickly so people get an idea of what are we talking about? So if someone that needs at least, let's say, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 a month, and they're gonna be alive until 90 years old. So you have what to multiply those $3,000 by 12 months? What is it? 3,000. And 3,000 is literally nothing, because if you have to pay mortgage or whatever, but just do the math so people get an idea, because sometimes people have, maybe they have in their retirement account, they have $200,000-$300,000, and they say, okay, I have plenty already. I don't need much. But they don't look at the numbers, which is what you're talking about. And when you look at the number, if you multiply, let's say $5,000 a month for 12, that's what you need annually, $60,000 annually, right? And then if you're gonna live 30 years, just right there, let me see, 66 times 3, that's what, $1.8 million? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, you need about $2 million. You need about $2 million to have what the conversation you're talking, the scenario you're using. You need about $2 million, because people don't think about. That's why I said earlier, there's a difference between traditional and Roth 401ks or IRAs. They act differently. If you have a traditional, that means if you want to pull money out, you got to pay tax on it. So you got to factor that into consideration. You have to factor in inflation. Lots of things.
Very interesting, very interesting. I think that we're running out of time, Larry, but this is a very interesting conversation. What I really want to do in the future is invite you again, so we can continue talking about this topic and even dive in even deeper, so people really wake up and realize that, hey, the sooner you start putting money away in any type of retirement, plan, the better it is for you and for your family. Is that right? Any final thought?
100%. I agree. Like I said, when we first started, the earlier you start the process of this type of planning, the better off you're going to be. It just really will position you for a successful future.
There you have it, guys. The one and only Larry Kennedy, a financial advisor and wealth managed advisor. I mean, Larry, I really want to thank you on behalf of the Latino Franchise Association, and we definitely would love to have you back to talk about it. Thank you for the support, for supporting the Latino Franchise Association. This round of applause again goes to you, my friend.
Thank you. Pleasure being here, Rafael. Thank you for having me.
And those of you that are listening or watching, if you really want to contact Larry, you can either follow up by sending him an email at lawrence.kennedy@nm.com, nancymike.com. Lawrence.kennedy@nm.com. Or if you prefer to give him a ring, give him a call, just call him directly to 914-367-0908. Any final comments, Larry?
No, sir. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, and thank you for taking the time and participating in our podcast. And guys, don't forget to hit like, follow our social media platform, and keep listening to all of our podcast, platform that we publish our podcasts. Until next time, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Ciao.
Latino can no longer be rendered invisible. Latinos are boosting the U.S. economy under the powerful franchising business model. It is time for change and to take actions for the business future of the Latino community. We stand for more opportunities for people from all walks of life. Join us to be part of the transformation of the franchising industry, where Latinos have the power to grow on a large scale.